welcome back. We are on the third and fourth iteration of the Ask Dave Anything, the Warcraft AMA that has been 20 years in the making. I've picked another 20-something questions, and there were a couple mistakes in the last one that I wanted to address before we continued on. So let's just jump into those mistakes right away. So one of the questions that I messed up, can you please show us where exactly the secret units locations are on the screen during Thrall's Vision Cinematic? It is said that there's a hydralisk somewhere in there and other secret units, but I personally cannot spot them. Yes, it's been pointed out to me, and now I see it too. So this is Thrall's cinematic vision. What I want you to do is watch here in the lower right. Now keep in mind that at the time that this was made, the compression on the video was even more severe than this. But you can see the head of the hydralisk here, and if you continue on, it becomes somewhat clear that that's his left or right claw, and you just, yeah, that's definitely a hydralisk. You can tell by the long cone-shaped head, and then there's like some shininess on it. That's it. That's where it was. This is at 2 minutes and 3 seconds into the video, and it blasts by in like a few seconds. But once you're looking for it, I think it becomes a lot more obvious, and you can sort of see the body of it there, and it's inching along like a worm. So there it is, the hydralisk in Thrall's Vision Cinematic. So I just wanted to answer that one properly. So now I can change that to a yes. Can you share some funny stories of working with Blizzard, whether with the devs or more iconic Blizzard personalities like Metzen and Sammy? Actually, the most interesting story about my time at Blizzard, and probably one of my happiest memories, was that me, Derek Simmons, Jason Hutchins, Mark Downey, Samwise Didier, and Chris Metzen would play Dungeons and Dragons together. Derek Simmons would be the dungeon master. He made his own system called Avarice, which I don't know if he shipped it. I don't think he's ever put it out there. I wish he would. Derek, if you're watching, I'll help you ship Avarice. It's time to unleash your stuff on the world. So we would play Dungeons and Dragons together, and we would go on many adventures, and I found this old document. So this is actually Jason Hutchins', you can see there, character sheet. He played the Templar Aureus, and this is a wanted poster put out by I forget what the organization was called, but Prime. I was like an illegal magic user. I was Kellen the Drow, and there's some little interesting anecdotes here. This was drawn by Samwise Didier. Samwise played Mooguel, the Hobgoblin. Moogle, we called him Moogle. And then Saradwin was Mark Downey's character. Aureus was Jason Hutchins' character. And we would go on adventures together. Chris Metzen wasn't in the initial part of the campaign. He joined in the second campaign as Agranor the Half-Ogre. Unfortunately, I don't think Sam did art for him, but I think that Chris did his own art. I just don't have it. Jarvis the Panda is an NPC character. He was amusing. Played by Derek Simmons, I suppose you would say. But Derek ran the campaign. So there you go. I think that's a pretty amusing anecdote. Did you play games against other developers at Blizzard very often? Did you challenge each other in group matches? We played Warcraft 3 matches and StarCraft matches all the time. It was pretty much a daily occurrence. It was sort of like you had to do a daily match anyways, just to help with the balance changes. And so we were always playing games against each other, and that's how we found some balance issues here and there. I remember on one particular occasion during the Frozen Throne, the troll bat riders, were problematic in a match, and it was, I think, Tom Cadwell's first foray into balancing, and Pardo had told him that when you initially balance a new unit, you want to balance it high, meaning that it's super good, so that people will use it more in matches. But I think that's something for release of a game, not necessarily for balance testing internally, but he did it anyways, and I remember distinctly typing and hitting return on the line, balance the bat riders hard. So that might give you some sense of that I might have been a little bit vitriolic during certain points in development, particularly when I was tired and we were doing balance changes. But towards the end of development, matches sort of went to the wayside because we were so busy making the campaign, so we couldn't participate in those. But like artists and programmers and stuff who were basically almost done at that point were more able to play matches, and so that's where most of the balance testing came from. In By Demons Be Driven, was it ever going to be a prerequisite to defeating Grom before being able to store him in the Pokeball? Don't you have to get him low? Let's look this up. So we're going to go into By Demons Be Driven. What triggers do we make for capturing Grom? So let's see if it's obvious to find or difficult. So if Grom dies, he instant revives. What is the victory condition? See, these questions are hard to answer sometimes. Disable for cinematic, Jada AI stuff. Magic Vault. Oh, my Magic Vault. Oh. This never worked, did it? No, it didn't. The handy dandy magic box item. Okay, sorry. Now I'm off track. But yeah, I made this Magic Vault trigger that was supposed to like do random stuff, like give you null overseers, just totally random. Like, but I never sort of figured it out. If someone wants to mess with that, feel free. But that's not what we're here for. Right. You couldn't kill Grom. He would just instant revive. I don't think there ever was a phase where you didn't have to use the gem to capture him. So you can see from some certain triggers that maybe we were kind of stressed out during development and we were letting off steam by hiding things in the triggers. Probably do a whole series on stuff we hid in triggers. So you have to use the gem on him in the mission. Everything goes back to normal. It selects the units you had selected prior to. That's why we put all those units in the unit group at the start. That's actually one of those quality of life things that some people ignore. So set selected units equal units currently selected by player. So we know what you had selected when the cinematic started, and then we reselect them for you at the end. So it's like nothing happened. Subtle, but cool. Okay, no, I know why it works. In order to use the soul gem, it must have a target, and the only target for the soul gem is Grom. Let's verify. There you are. Item, Soul Theft. Traps the targeted enemy hero inside the soul gem when used. So because Grom was the only enemy hero on the map, the only one you could use the soul gem on was Grom. Well, I learned something. Did you guys learn something? No, it was not going to be a prerequisite. So, nope. That was never in the cards. It was always about capturing your friend, because it doesn't make sense to murder your friend before you save them. When you designed the Culling, what were you told about Stratholme? Was it intended to be a landlocked city? Did you just design it from scratch and the lore was completely changed in WoW? Well, the Culling. Literally nothing. No one told me anything about Stratholme. I didn't know anything. All I knew was it's a human city and it's a big city. Those were basically the two prime directives I was given. So, when I was designing the Culling, I didn't know anything about the city, so I knew that we couldn't show like an entire city. So what I tried to do was give this grandiose sense of scope by having a pretty decent sized map and then just sort of carving out a section that breaks into the wilderness in the forest to sort of give the idea that this city is much, much, much larger than just this area. So this is like just one set of districts in what I try to give the impression is a much larger area, because all I really knew it was a big city. And then I tried to have like, you know, cool entranceway going into the first village area, a place to, I mean, this is so far off to the side that it's almost ridiculous, but like a city park. So I thought of it like a city. So a city would have a park, a city would have places to rest, a city would have bandits outside it, a city would have a graveyard. Did I put a graveyard somewhere? This was for the cinematic. So this is like a park area where people would go to sit and relax. So it's a very leisurely city. I guess I didn't have a graveyard. Well, I really should have. Maybe this was the graveyard. Maybe that's the insinuation. And I also had, most importantly, a zoo. Now, it's not the most interesting or compelling zoo, but I just thought it was funny to have these different creatures behind bars. And this is also where the infamous rat is. That looks like him. Filson. Filson the rat. And what was funny, like this little Easter egg here, it's just a modified rat. It's got the ability evasion 100%. So you can't attack it directly. And he drops a talisman of evasion, which I thought was pretty funny. So now you know in the world of Lordaeron, rats have natural evasion, and if they happen to get their hands on a talisman of evasion, they will have 100% evasion. That is now lore that you have to keep in your head, because it's fact. I even did like aqueducts, yeah. Feeding in from like a major aqueduct. Yeah, I loved waterfalls. And then here's the central point, which never got used as a central point because basically you would destroy all this and then you would go down here and destroy all this. I don't know. Some people might have explored more. I don't really have a good sense of how people played this map, to be honest with you. I think this is one of my early iterations in level design where level flow, I let the level flow get away from me. All these areas are connected through this central point, and you can find all these different things. So I think it still worked. It's still a good map. It's just not non-optimal. Like what's this? What is this? It's just an empty grain boxes around a water well, implying that it was poisoned. Like, this is so far off to the side. What's even the point? I don't know. It's desperation houses in case Mal'Ganis goes over there. Did I answer the question? Yeah. I was told almost nothing. What are your thoughts on the balance of racial units? Do you think any particular race is imbalanced? Yes. So, orcs. So here's the thing. In a game where a unit deals full damage, no matter how much damage it has taken, the unit that survives the longest is dealing more of its damage the entire time. And that's just sort of a fundamental part of the game. So if a unit can be killed easily, like in say 1 or 2 shots, it's not dealing its damage anymore, so it's gone. And so any race that has more hit points as sort of like a base element of that, it's more difficult to balance just because it's easier to keep something with that many hit points alive. And, you know, when it gets healed, it benefits more from heals and everything like that. So I'm not saying that it's totally imbalanced. Certainly there were measures taken to keep them in balance, but I just think orcs have a natural advantage in a game like this because they naturally stay alive longer and thus deal their damage longer. And in a game where experience matters so much from other heroes killing your units, being able to keep your units alive just because they have so much more hit points means that you're denying experience that as well. So it's just there's multiple advantages that the orcs have just based on their natural stats. That might be a controversial take, but that's my personal opinion on it. When you placed Easter eggs in the game, were they placed on a whim or planned out when you drafted out the mission? 90%, maybe 98% of all the Easter eggs in the game are 100% on a whim. Yeah, it's basically like, oh, I've got a little extra space over here. It'd be cool if there was an Easter egg here. Or in some cases I had like large paths of open space because my level design was kind of terrible. And I'm like, I need to fill this in with something. So I came up with some sort of gimmick or like a new race to meet or a Pandaren relaxation pool. Though that has a longer story, which we'll get to in a bit. The only planned Easter egg was for the Frozen Throne and the Dungeons of Dalaran. We definitely planned to have the tower defense mission, and that was an Easter egg. So that was the only planned Easter egg in all of Reign of Chaos and the Frozen Throne, in terms of like, it was something we knew was going to go into the game. Every other Easter egg in the game is the personal whim of whatever level designer was making that mission. So here is the only planned Easter egg in all of Warcraft 3 and Warcraft 3 The Frozen Throne. The RGB sheep. Or actually it's red, yellow, blue, isn't it? That doesn't look green. That should have been green. Oh well. This is the puzzle you have to figure out in order to get to the tower defense map. Some of this was almost cut because it was a little too off the wall for certain individuals, but I'm glad that we kept it in as it is. And this is one of my more elaborate levels, as you might be able to tell from the triggers. I literally named the trigger and the folder it's in Balram EU, which is the solution to the puzzle. Spoilers. So each one individually plays its sound, and then over here... Okay, this is a complicated trigger. This is when I was getting fancy. Oh, look at this. There's a Easter egg that was disabled involving Timmy. I don't remember this. There was supposed to be a small Timmy that followed you around. This I never got working. I vaguely remember it. Do you agree that Warcraft 3 is a good game because everyone on the dev team knew what would be coming next? What would be coming next? Do you think that developing the game by looking at the bigger picture in terms of lore, characters, locations, items, etc. helped make it the masterpiece as we know it today, not Reforged? So, no. Not at all. Warcraft 3 was a good game because we wanted to make it a good game, and we worked very hard to make it a good game. All of the lore and everything, the characters, the locations, those are all strictly for Warcraft 3. World of Warcraft's lore was not set. It was a game in production. Metzen wasn't even working on it really yet at the time of Warcraft 3, Reign of Chaos, and the Frozen Thrones production cycle. So World of Warcraft, or anything that came after Warcraft 3, literally they had nothing to do with what we did on Warcraft 3. We didn't try like, oh wow, because WoW is going to exist, we're going to make Warcraft 3 even better. And just no, of course not. No, we wanted to make Warcraft 3 a good game because we wanted to make a good game. Every single one of us wanted to make a good game. And so we put our hearts and souls into it, and you know, it is what it is, whether you love it or hate it. What are your thoughts about the world editor and the custom-made maps in general? I have many thoughts. Many thoughts. In terms of the custom maps that people make, I mean, a lot of them are, you know, wacky. But Dota exists because we made a robust world editor for Warcraft 3, and the entire intent of that was to make sure that the players at home could make something exactly like Warcraft 3, because we wanted to encourage the next generation of developers by providing a tool that allowed you to do exactly what we did. Like literally it's one-to-one what we had, minus some features because the world editor was in progress while we were making Reign of Chaos. We wanted to make sure that that was A, easy to use, and B, something that you guys got and could do whatever you wanted with. And I think we were largely successful in that, given that we spawned entire genres. Did you and the other developers expect the modding community of Warcraft 3 to be so big? No. Was the world editor designed with that flexibility in mind? The world editor was designed to be a friendly as possible end-user experience for anyone who wanted to make a map like we did, or to make their own campaign, or to just be creative in their own way. That was the whole point of the world editor, and we were very committed to that. We had no expectations of the modding community. Honestly, we thought it would be a lot of like garbage maps, and you know, for the large part, there's a lot of garbage maps, you know what I mean? Like rape defense, like who did that? Like, I hope it was like a kid who just didn't understand what he was doing, but you know, what why would you do that? We didn't expect the community that was built from the Warcraft 3 modding community, but we were happy that it happened, and it was our intent that anyone would be able to become a level designer like us, and so I'm glad that a lot of people did. That's maybe a crowning achievement in my career, that I was part of that. What is your opinion about trying to remake or enhance current Warcraft 3 campaigns by fans? So to take our current campaigns and to remake them and enhance them? Great, do it! I love it. Fix my maps. There's some funky triggers that probably could be redone. Like my trigger logic is not always the best, but it helps me think logically, which is great. We absolutely love it when people take what we worked on and build on it. That's kind of what we wanted, though. I think it's because of the CD space concerns. Those campaign missions are locked behind some sort of MPQ, which was not the best. I think it would have been better if they'd been just available to mess with, but oh well. On the other hand, maybe we locked them because, you know, the content of the triggers in the world editor were not filtered. So if we put cuss words and stuff in there, that would be exposed by people opening them in the world editor. Maybe that was part of the concern. But either way, I wish we had just simply made it more transparent and allowed people to edit those maps from the very start and like see how the Culling of Stratholme was made, and maybe someone gets interested in coding because they see that, you know, Mike Morheim did some code with the triggers. I think that would have been great. What took more time, programming the world editor or developing the campaigns with it? The campaigns. The campaigns took more time. So the map editor was designed by, or programmed by, and partially designed by Brett Wood, who was an actual rocket scientist, and in tandem with the level design team who wanted to, you know, have a functional world editor that they understood how to use. I think Mike Heiberg was primarily leading that design. World editor was mostly done long before we shipped, and then there was just like bug fixing and stuff that would come up periodically. So yeah, campaigns, they took the longest. Are there any hard-coded Easter eggs in the game's maps? For example, ones that can't be found in the game, just in the maps files. In terms of like Easter eggs hidden in the game's maps that are not in the game, like you can't find them by playing, yeah, there's like tons. But most of them are disabled, and you'd have to open up the world editor to find them. I showed one earlier that concerned the sheep following a little Timmy around. So it was after you unlocked the Easter egg to get the tower defense level, I was going to have the 3 sheep unlocked from their cages and follow you around, but I couldn't get them to follow the player around, so I tried to create an invisible unit called that I named Little Timmy that would have been invisible, that they would follow around, and it didn't work out. There was too many sharp corners and stuff, and the sheep would get caught on stuff. It just never worked. So that's one, for example. And I only know that one because I just looked through the editor and saw that earlier. There's hard-coded trigger map stuff that is not in the final game, like you can't find it.